Chapter 92. Samadhi True Flame. Yuanying Realm, 5th level. This was Gu Hai's first thought when he woke up. In the Fire God Palace, Gu Hai's fire infant used flames to condense a gorgeous robe. An aura that was several times more powerful than before emanated out, and the flames transformed into a rope, tying the huge fire gourd that was only not much shorter than the fire infant behind it. Gu Hai's fire baby cradled one of Fairy's fire baby. Outside the body, one of Fairy was lying on Gu Hai's chest and seemed to have woken up a step earlier, looking at Gu Hai in front of her with a complex color in her eyes. Gu Hai slowly opened his eyes, and as his four eyes met, one of Fairy immediately had a panic in her eyes. "Thank you, Wana, my cultivation has increased again. My fire infant has been perfected. I can barely suppress the fire gourd. It's just a pity that I can't fully utilize it yet." Gu Hai laughed. Fairy Wana bit her lips with a red face. "Why, every time, after every time, my cultivation will grow so much. The Gommel method's sake, I guess." Gu Hai laughed. Fairy Wana nodded and didn't ask any more detailed questions. "Where did you get that fire gourd of yours? It wasn't there last time." Fairy Wana looked at Gu Hai. "Suppressing the great killing sage and their seals, I guess." Gu Hai didn't hide it. "Huh, wasn't there only a small section of vines? How come there's this gourd?" Fairy Wana was surprised. "Oh, you know." Gu Hai also revealed a hint of surprise. "Yes, that seal. Back then, it was my Taishang lineage that helped seal the seal. The canonical records say that the Taishang of that generation took a vine and used it to trigger the fire of the void. It was just a fuse to trigger the fire, yet, how is it that there's still a gourd formed?" Fairy Wana was surprised. "Oh, the Taishang lineage helped seal it." Gu Hai was surprised. Fairy Wana nodded. "This fire gourd of yours, don't show it to anyone easily, especially not to the people of the 10,000 longevity Taoist cult." "Oh, I, Manshou Dao cult, also have a fire gourd, however, but that gourd has been broken. If it is known to others in Manshou Dao cult, it will surely do whatever it takes to take it for itself. You be careful to collect it," Fairy Wana worriedly said. "There's one in the Manshou Dao sect as well." Gu Hai was surprised. "Yes, in the canonical books, it seems to mention that during the ancient times, a gourd vine was born. It seems to have several gourds. Among them, the fire gourd was obtained by my Wanshu Dao cult. The other several gourds almost don't show up. Oh no. There is a golden gourd that shows up from time to time, called what is the Immortal beheading gourd." Fairy Wana recalled. "Immortal beheading gourd. Is the password 'please turn around baby'?" Gu Hai was slightly stunned. "Wasn't this a story from the God sealing list on Earth?" "There's no password." Fairy Wana shook her head. Well, maybe I remembered it wrong." Gu Hai smiled slightly bitterly. "It seemed not. The fire gourd of the Wanshu Taoist cult is the same as mine." Gu Hai was curious. "No, that fire gourd was opened up and is now the alchemy furnace of my Taishang lineage. However, I've never seen it. I've only heard that the canonical records say that the fire gourd was broken. Exactly where, I'm not sure. But I know that the vine that suppressed the great slaying scent was taken from a bit of the green vine on that fire gourd. I can't imagine that it actually condensed a fire gourd once again," Immortal Wana said in surprise. Gu Hai was silent for a while, a trace of strangeness flashing in his eyes. "The Wanshu Taoist cult assisted the great killing sage in sealing them. The fact that there is a great killing treasure underneath this ground should be known as well. Why has no one come all this time?" Gu Hai was puzzled. "You know about this too?" Fairy Wana looked at Gu Hai with a complicated expression. "Before I came, my master was mentioning it to me. In fact, the higher-ups of the 10,000 longevity Taoist cult knew about it. But they didn't come over to collect it, because the treasures of the great killing heavenly dynasty were too bloody. The karma was too great. Thus, didn't want to get involved in these karmic consequences. In the words of my master, the great killing heavenly dynasty was full of evils, and sooner or later it would be retributed, Fairy Winner recalled. Oh, then what were you here for this time? Gu Hai was curious. Master asked me to come and retrieve another thing from the Taishong lineage, only that I never found it earlier. Now that Metropolis City is in ruins, and the pattern is clear, I can probably find it, Fairy Winner softly said. All right, Winner, don't go back to someone show Dao cult either. Come back to the Great Han Dynasty with me. Gu Hai softly stroked Fairy Winner's hair. Fairy Winner was first stunned, then a trace of panic flashed in her eyes, and instead of responding to Gu Hai, she suddenly hugged Gu Hai tightly. Love me. A clear sound of silver bells resounded once again in the Great Hall, Ancient Sea Villa. Li Shenji caught yet another wave of infiltrators, and with a hint of irritation, he looked towards the Great Hall where Gu Hai was. How long are you guys going to talk? It's been 10 days and you refuse to come out. Are you really scattering? Am I helping you guys to protect the law? Li Shenji was depressed. Mo Yaika and the others were even more entangled. Gu Hai closed the door, not even step out of the door at all. Every time they went to seek an audience, Li Shenji's ice-cold face said that Gu Hai was healing and resting. Are you really injured? Do you want to keep pretending like this? The eyes around the villa are arranged more and more, but Gu Hai really did not step out of the door. Mo Yik tangled. Jiongis hate itchy teeth. After that day, his reputation really stinks. Not to say walk on the street who do not want to see. At least, there have been countless finger-pointing. For Jiong, he had never been planted by anyone but himself. Gu Hai. Jiong pinched his fist in indignation. Where Shiyong was a floating island not far from the ancient sea villa. Shiyong was standing on top of the floating island, looking at the ancient sea manor. Young Prince, Gu Hai hasn't come out, and the people we sent over there have all lost their news, a guard behind him said in a deep voice. Behind Jiong stood two guards, the same to Heaven Opening Palace powerhouses that had protected Jiong 10 days ago. King Shikong had allowed the two to protect Jiong, clearly loving Jiong. It will come out. The two of you. When Gu Hai comes out, I will have to trouble the two of you. Jiong looked at the two behind him. The duo frowned slightly and did not reply. Heh, as long as Long Wenyu is alive. What does it matter if Gu Hai is dead or alive? Killing Gu Hai can avenge my father's death and can help my Daeon get the 24 cities of Great Han as soon as possible, Jiong said in a deep voice. But the king ordered it. A guard frowned. Now that Metropolis is in such a mess, who would know that it was us who struck? Moreover, Mr. Dongfang is assisting us, so what are you guys worried about? Just find a secluded place and move cleanly. Won't that be enough? It's not like you guys haven't done this before, Jiong said in a deep voice. The two guards were slightly worried. Gu Hai is only at the Yuanying realm. You two have opened the Heavenly Palace, and there's still me and Mr. Dongfang. What are you afraid of? The previous Zhong Sanfeng was only because of Mo Yaika's great formation. Strike. Haven't you guys been salivating over my new concubine? Jiong sneered. The two guards were slightly stunned. That concubine is also that general's wife that you guys got after helping me assassinate a general. This kind of thing. You guys have done it not once or twice. I'm already tired of playing with it. So how about giving it to you guys? Jiong sneered. The two guards immediately had a light in their eyes and seemed to be moved. Young Prince, Gu Hai has come out. One of the guards steeply pointed to the distance. Ancient Sea Manor. After lingering for another 8 days, Gu Hai slowly opened the gate and stepped out. In the main hall, Fairy Winner seemed to be sleeping deeply. When Gu Hai stepped out of the gate, Fairy Winner suddenly opened her eyes and looked at Gu Hai's back as he went out, biting her lips. Her eyes slowly turned firm, seeming to have made up her mind of some sort. Her eyes gradually reddened. Gu Hai walked out of the hall and closed the hall door. Then he sought out Giant Foot. "Your Majesty, during these 10 days of your seclusion, Metropolis City has restored 60% of its buildings. All the surrounding walls have been built, and the underground formations have been opened. So you can't easily hide from the ground," Giant Foot said with a bitter smile. "Oh, unable to hide," Gu Hai said in a deep voice. "Yes, the formation formed a large net dents in the ground. As long as I vanish, I will be discovered. However, it is good that the Emperor arranged early, when the city was still in turmoil. I've opened a tunnel that can lead to the outside of the city. However, there can only be this one," Rulu solemnly said. "There is one. It's enough," Gu Hai smiled faintly. "Who you?" Steeply, Li Shenji flew down in front of Gu Hai. "Mr. Gu, you guys have been talking about your conversation for quite a while," Li Shenji said in a deep voice. "Huh, breath introverted. You made another breakthrough in your cultivation." Li Shenji's face changed abruptly. Gu Hai looked at Li Shenji and said, "Campmaster Li, it's been 10 days. The county princess should be safe, right?" Li Shenji narrowed his eyes at Gu Hai. "Since the county lord is safe, we should also retire after our work is done," Gu Hai said with a smile. "Leave now." Li Shenji immediately revealed a hint of reluctance. Gu Hai smiled and nodded. Gong Yong Sheng sent word that he has found a hint of the 9-9 sealed Yong Grand Formation. Opening the Grand Formation and releasing the Great Killing Treasure is just a short while away. You're leaving at this time," Li Shenji said in a deep voice. "I'm also only at the Yuanying realm. Even if there's a treasure, it's not my turn, right? Therefore, I'd better forget about it." "Campmaster Li, if you don't want to leave, that's fine. As you wish. The people I brought with me are ready to go," Gu Hai laughed. "Humph, as you wish," Li Shenji said in a cold voice. Taking a step, Li Shenji twisted his head and left. "Your Majesty, do we really have to go?" Rulu also said with some regret. "Let's go. You arrange for everyone to leave through the tunnel first right away. I'll go to the city later to do an errand. Meet up outside the city then," Gu Hai said in a deep voice. "Yes," Giant Lu nodded and proceeded to report everything about the tunnel to Gu Hai. After Gu Hai understood, once again, he returned to the previous Grand Hall. At this moment, Fairy Wunna had already gotten up and packed everything. "Let's go. Collect what you're looking for first, and then come back to Kaoj with me afterwards," Gu Hai said with a smile. Fairy Wunna looked deeply at Gu Hai, and eventually nodded with a faint smile. After simply packing up, Gu Hai and Fairy Wunna stepped out of the mountain villa